Yo, what is up guys, Del Boy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this video is a quick prospect review, I guess, for Zhanibek Alimkhanuly. Now Zhanibek is a 28-year-old middleweight from Kazakhstan. Of course, you know, from that part of the world, Zhanibek had a great amateur pedigree. He is a former Olympian, and in 2013 he won the World Amateur Championships in the middleweight division. Now, funnily enough, the first time I saw Zhanibek fight was actually in the 2016 Rio Olympics, and I saw his fight with Anthony Fowler, and he punched holes in Anthony Fowler. He dropped him and basically beat him up, to be honest. And when I saw him that night, in that fight, I felt this guy has a style tailor-made for the professional ranks, and ever since then I've had an interest in Zhanibek Alimkhanuly. So the guy comes with a great amateur pedigree and great schooling, and by the way, he's also a southpaw. But having said that, when this guy actually turned pro, obviously I was very excited and I was very intrigued to see where he would go. But I've got to be honest, in Zhanibek's first few pro fights, I wasn't all that impressed. You know, I recall the Vaughan Alexander fight where he kind of struggled, and I wondered at that time whether Zhanibek was one of those guys who would struggle to transition into the professional ranks. But you know, time has passed since then, and in his last few fights, Zhanibek has been looking very good. He's been looking like one hell of a prospect and a real good pro. He recently fought this past weekend on the Lomachenko-Nakatani undercard, and he was fighting Rob Brant. Now, Rob Brant isn't exactly a world beater, but he's an experienced fighter, got a great gas tank, he's tough, he's strong, and, you know, he was a former WBA regular champion, take that what it's worth. But, you know, going into that fight, I certainly saw Rob Brant as a step up, and I'll be honest, going into that fight, I picked Zhanibek to win. I picked him to win on points. I felt he would win quite clearly, but I didn't think he would look that great doing it, if I'm being honest. So, watching that fight from last weekend, I was very impressed with Zhanibek's performance. I felt he looked really good. He looked calm, composed, and very dangerous. Real good performance. He systematically broke down Rob Brant, basically won every single round. His left hand out of that southpaw stance was extremely accurate, extremely punishing. He was landing it body and head for straight left hands, and he was slowly dissecting Rob Brant in a real good technical display. He showed great balance, great poise, great accuracy, a nice jab, good pressure, good ability to cut the ring off, nice body work. He looked like a real threat in there against Rob Brant. And again, Rob Brant isn't exactly a world beater, but he's one of those guys where if you're not at a certain level, he can expose you, you know, whether that's by making you look bad or even beating you. He's that sort of guy. And yeah, for Zhanibek to beat him the way he did, I felt it was very impressive. And now he's beaten Rob Brant, who, you know, was a fringe contender in the middleweight division. I guess we now say Zhanibek has moved from prospect to maybe a contender at this point in time. I'm sure his ranking points in the sanctioning bodies are going to get increased after this latest win. And yeah, to me, it was his career best performance. Like I said, I really enjoy his style. He's nice and composed, good distance control, good solid fundamentals, nice power, nice accuracy. You can tell he comes from that kind of Soviet bloc schooling in his style, but he's adjusted that now to the pro game. He seems to be a bit more vicious than he was in his early fights, to be honest, and he seems to be applying more effective pressure now in comparison to his early fights. So I think the guy is now settling into the pro game, and you know, going forwards, this guy could be a very interesting contender in the middleweight division. And yeah, now he's beaten Rob Brant, I can't imagine that Zhanibek is going to be moved slowly, so I'm expecting somebody on a similar level to Rob Brant in his next fight, or maybe even somebody a bit better. I mean, I'll give you a couple of examples in regards to who I want to see Zhanibek fight next in his next couple of fights. I think for his next fight, somebody like Luis Arias would be a very good option. Number one, Luis Arias is relatively experienced, he's durable, he's been in there with some good guys, and he's coming off a good win over Jarrett Hurd. I think somebody like Luis Arias would actually make quite a lot of sense for Zhanibek. And, you know, let's say he fights Luis Arias and beats him. After that, I would say chuck him in there with Maciej Sulecki or even Liam Williams. You know, these sort of names. He's 28 years old, extensive amateur background. There's no need to mess around and, you know, waste time with this guy. Ultimately, if they want this guy to be a star, they need to start, you know, putting him in fights in which people care about. So a few people actually took note of his fight with Rob Brant. You know, slowly but surely, he needs to take these sort of fights, these slight step-up fights against guys who people are familiar with. And, you know, given his style, given how he fights, given that he's powerful, he could generate a cult fan base kind of thing. But all in all, I think Zhanibek is one of the best prospects in the middleweight division, if you can still call him a prospect at this stage. But he's certainly a very exciting talent, in my opinion. I liked how he was getting in range, how he was moving his feet, how he was carrying himself, you know, nice and composed, nice and solid, great punch technique, great accuracy, great power. I like his style, and I'll be intrigued to see where he goes next. But what do you guys make of Zhanibek Alimkhanuly? How do you rate him? How far do you think he can go in the middleweight division? Share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Del Boy. Peace.